Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show, seen Wednesdays on the Sports Collectors Daily Facebook page and the Great American Collectibles Facebook page. You can also listen to us on iHeartRadio, Pandora, and Spotify. The Great American Collectibles Show is brought to you by the National Sports Collectors Convention and Sports Collectors Daily. Tonight's headlines are brought to you by Sports Collectors Daily. For all of your hobby news, features, and more, go to sportscollectorsdaily.com. And now your hosts, Tom Zappala and Boston sports personality, John Mallory.
Johnny boy, welcome.
What's up, buddy?
You look good.
You look good, too. You have the new shirt on.
Yeah, we got some new jerseys.
I know.
I just gave you yours.
You did? I'll debut mine the next time I'm on.
You owe me $50. Other than that,
in that case, you'll be getting mine back.
Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show. Tom Zappala and my good buddy, Boston sports personality, writer. You do everything. Radio personality, TV.
Do. Send me a check. I will do it.
JM, Johnny Mallory. Don't forget, you can listen to us wherever. I repeat, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And please don't forget to share us on Facebook.
Yes.
But you can listen to us anywhere. If you're in the bathroom and you have your phone with you, you can say, Alexa, play the Great American Collectibles Show.
Boom.
Right?
And there we are.
Right. All right, listen, we have a good show today. We have Calvin Arnold from REA Auctions and Jeff Marran from Rockurst coming in a little later on. But first, an announcement and our headlines. We're going to start a new segment. Many of you, and the response has been great, to our GAX moments. Another GAX moment. Every week we have been posting one, and the response has been great. So we're going to be incorporating it into our show every week after the break. Another GAX moment by yours truly.
GAX being GACS.
Yeah, Great American Collectibles Show.
Thank you.
Or as Chrissy says, what do you say? What's the other abbreviation? ASM or something? I can't remember.
For another GAX moment would be AGM.
AGM, thank you. Okay.
ASM would be. That's a different abbreviation she has for you.
All right, but first.
I didn't know you knew that one.
Before we get to Calvin, our headlines. And the grading wars continue. SCG now has a mobile app, JM, available via both Google Play for Android users and Apple's App Store. Plus, they also announced they've cut the cost of grading to $15 a card for all sports and non-sports cards with a 5 to 10 day turnaround time. You think they're putting a little pressure on PSA?
So let me ask you a question. So you can go on the app and have your card graded just through the app?
You can. That's a good question. Collectors can fill out a submission form via the app.
All right.
Track the progress of their submissions, verify the cert numbers and that. So now PSA comes back and they say PSA customers now have some post-grading flexibility. Company says they can now send individual cards to one of three places once cards are graded. Those options include storage at the PSA vault, consignment to auction through its partnership with Golden, or shipping back to their home or business. Previously, customers were required to ship entire orders to the vault or their homes. For more information, you can go to sportscollectorsdaily.com, but the wars are brewing.
That's kind of a good headline. Like that's big news.
Yeah, it is big news. Are you kidding me?
A lot of abbreviations on the show so far. SGC, PSA, GACS, ASM.
All right. Let's talk to our good friend. Calvin's been on the show with us before. Calvin Arnold from REA Auctions. Calvin, how are you, brother?
We're doing great. How are you guys?
Hey, Calvin. How you doing?
Calvin, are you out of Cal? Where are you?
I'm currently right now in Texas.
Oh, you're in Texas? Yeah, you're all over the place, you guys.
What part of Texas are you in?
Northwest of Dallas.
Northwest of Dallas.
So northwest, yep. Just outside a town called Denton.
Denton, that's where the Von Erichs are from. The Restless, right? Aren't they from Denton, Texas?
Good information right there.
I'm pretty sure the Von Erich family is from Denton, Texas.
I did not know that.
They're all dead.
North Texas University is right down the street.
Okay,
great.
Gotcha.
All right, so listen, you have a great auction. Remember, today is Wednesday, so you have a great auction starting tomorrow evening. Tomorrow evening at what time? What time's the auction start?
Tomorrow it usually opens up right around noon Eastern time. So it'll open up tomorrow and it runs through September 24th.
I have a couple of items in there.
Do you really?
I'm not going to tell you what they are because I don't want people to bid on them if they don't want to. I'm not going to say. I have a couple of items.
You want
But
people
they are
to
the
bid
best
on.
items, right?
I think so, in my opinion.
Is your name attached to it?
Yeah, it says please I have a little note stuck to them. Please buy these.
Please subsidize my income.
Exactly. That would be nice. All right, let's talk about some of the items and some of the athletes behind the items. First thing that stuck out was you have a ticket. I'm a big Bill Walton fan.
Me too.
Big Bill Walton fan. Always have been. You have a ticket from Walton's first game as a Bruin versus Citadel, correct? Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about it.
It is a very cool ticket. I mean, tickets recently have just over the last couple of years really exploded in popularity and value. And so when you start to sift through your old ticket collections and find some very unique, memorable moments for those tickets, they tend to do incredibly well. I mean, this is a Pop 101, I believe. It's Walton's first appearance. Incredible game, 19 points, 14 rebounds. So it's just a cool item. I think something else to note about that actually is, side note, is it's Jamal Wilkes' first debut as well, and he's a Hall of Famer.
I'm not sure he's a famous sports book writer. John Feinstein, is that his name?
Sure.
I think I don't know if he played on that Citadel team.
Oh, is that right?
But he played for, I think it was he that played for Citadel.
Okay.
And he was a pretty good ball player.
So can I ask a question, Calvin? Whenever I hear about tickets from way back when, is it ripped?
It is a ticket stub, yes. So
it's a stub.
The person actually attended the game.
Okay.
So where does Walton fall in your opinion?
Well, here's my opinion. If he doesn't get hurt, he's the greatest center who ever lived.
I kind of agree with that.
No, kind of. If he doesn't get hurt, if he has a full career, even if it's just a 12-year career or something like that, the way he passed the ball, the way he rebounded, his vision on the court, he was also very powerful. He could take the ball to the hole. He could dish the ball off. He's even with the injuries, he's the most talented center, I feel, to ever play in the NBA.
Your thoughts, Calvin?
And in terms of college, he's one of the top 3 college players who ever lived.
Oh, there's no doubt.
For sure.
Calvin, your thoughts?
I agree with John. I mean, I think it's arguable, right? I mean, I think you guys are going to have different opinions, but I agree with that. I mean, I think if his career was extended, he would have been likely one of, if not the greatest centers of all time. I mean, he won 2 championships in college, 2 championships in the NBA. I mean, one with one of the greatest teams ever, the 86 Celtics, right? So, I mean, he's a top 50 player. I mean, I don't think you can argue that he's certainly in the top.
I think he's the ultimate what-if player.
Something
in NBA history. And he still made the Hall of Fame, by the way, even with all the injury-filled seasons.
Isn't he in the top 50?
He's in the top 50, yeah. Right. So, I mean, he's still recognized, even though he missed probably the equivalent of 8 years or something like that.
Something. Let me tell you something. If he doesn't play for the 86 Celtics, they do not win that championship.
Oh, there's no question about that.
I mean, he was the ultimate 6th man. He was a more valuable player for that 1 year than John Havlicek ever was.
And there were a few games that year where he played more than just coming in playing 5-7 minutes.
And on one foot.
Like yeah. And the other thing is that, that bench was a tremendous bench. That's what helped them win the title. And he loved playing in Boston.
He said it was his greatest
coming here.
Of his entire college and professional career.
Yeah.
That was his snapshot in time.
But what he did in Portland can't be overlooked because
it was great.
Abdul-Jabbar was playing for the Lakers then. There were some good teams, and Calvin, you can jump in on this. But it was Bill Walton and then just a bunch of good players. Lionel Hollins was a good player. Twardzik was a good player, but they weren't great players. He was the hub of that team.
I agree,
Calvin.
Yeah, no. Another thing to note too is Walton's UCLA season, that debut game, that was a 30-0 season for them.
That's right.
As well.
Right.
So
That's right about that.
I mean, you can tell how great he was just by the fact that what he was able to accomplish. I think one of the other things too is they have a documentary coming out this year about him. So that tells you.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I saw it.
That tells you how important. Yeah, it's a 4-part documentary called "The Luckiest Guy in the World."
I saw it. It's unbelievable. It's out there now. Check it out.
I will.
It's out there now. Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Hey, you have a 1956 Topps mantle. About a month ago, we did a GAC segment on that particular card because I feel personally that 56 Topps mantle is beginning to skyrocket. Now, I know the white is more harder to get than the gray, but they're both great cards. Why don't you tell us about that card? Because I know you have the gray in your auction. It's PSA 6?
It's a PSA 6. It's been very consistent over time. I mean, I think if you look at collecting some of the top players in the game, you cannot go wrong. It's going to be very difficult. nowadays people look for eye appeal. I mean, that's what they're looking for. So you combine a guy like Mantle and you look at eye appeal of the card, that card will continue to go up. I mean, vintage. These players cannot do anything to hurt their career any longer. I mean, they are cemented in in history of the sport. So yeah, I mean, I think a 56 Mantle draws a lot of interest because of the card design. I think it draws a lot of interest because he won the Triple Crown that year.
So you can't, are you telling me you can't get that 56 Mantle Prism with the purple background, one of one, that has
refractor sparkle?
You can't get one of those?
Unfortunately not. So I mean, all of those might look cooler, but you know, when you talk about interest and value, I mean, Mantle's at the top of the list.
Absolutely.
Can you, and both you guys can comment on this, since we just talked about Walton. It's a broad comparison because Mantle had a long career and he played, but there's a similar quality that Mantle has with Walton. There's a what-if quality to Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, with
too,
the injuries. That's a good point.
Now, he put up tremendous stats and had a relatively long career, but can you draw that parallel? There's a mythical what-if quality about Mantle that I think makes his cards so enduringly valuable. Would you agree, Calvin?
Well, I think that's true to some respect. I think it has a lot to do with the team that he played for. I mean, I've always made the comparison, if, you know, Killebrew played for the Yankees, he would be Mickey Mantle. So, you know, I think it's tough to compare between those two sports and those eras because baseball was everything to everybody. The other sports were really largely unknown. They weren't on, you know, they obviously weren't on TV. They really didn't have the popularity until later on, where baseball absolutely dominated. And you take a guy like Mantle with the Yankees, it's just a winning combination.
So let me ask you this. You just made a great point. So if you flip-flop Killebrew and Mantle, Killebrew played for the Yankees, Mantle played for the Twins, does Mantle get the exposure over like that he gets today?
You know, it's an interesting question and one that's difficult to answer, but like, in my personal opinion, I don't think he does. I think that the media-centric New York area, I mean, the Yankees winning all those championships, the team that they are, elevated the careers of most players. Now, obviously, he had to have the stats to back it up, and he did. But I think that, again, if you flip-flop those two, Mantle maybe, you know, fades into the background a little bit.
Agree with
Great
that.
stats because Killebrew has more home runs.
I agree with you.
I agree with the big city thing, the New York, Boston, L.A., Chicago thing. I do. But if Mantle's in Minnesota and he's winning Triple Crowns and all that, he's still going to be looked upon as one of the greatest of all time. However, he's not going to have the lineup around him
not only that,
he had in New
I'm
York. You couldn't pitch around Mickey Mantle. Okay.
I think the question is, does he win Triple Crowns in Minnesota?
Well, that's the thing. If your team, you have to have someone on base to knock in to win the RBI
I mean,
title,
you could,
right?
that argument could go on for, you know, switch. We're not going to
switch anybody.
We're not going to dwell it, but Musial and DiMaggio switch them.
Well, if Joe Namath comes,
right?
if Joe Namath signs with the NFL and plays for the St. Louis Cardinals.
He sucked either way.
What is he? What's the street in St. Louis? What's the street? What's he going to be? There's no Broadway.
Exactly.
He's not Broadway Joe. Obviously, New York makes a huge difference.
Hey, Calvin, so, what are some of the other highlight items that you guys have?
You know, we have a really cool, I mean, we talk about like one of the segments or areas of the market that's really hot is Wagner right now is an incredibly hot player to collect. And so we currently, in the upcoming auction, we have a M116 blue Wagner Sporting News, which, I mean, we just saw an incredible result recently for one of those in a PSA 3. This is an authentic. It looks unbelievable. The back has some paper loss, and I think this is going to outperform. Wagner just has that allure because of the Tito 6 Wagner. It's just this iconic image and figure. Obviously, he was a great player, but I think it's starting to elevate some of the other issues that he has.
Calvin, can I make a confession?
Absolutely.
That PSA 3 in the other auction was mine.
It's incredible. I'm sure
I was dumbfounded. I was dumbfounded. And by the way, you can tell your boss that I have another one tucked away for you guys at some point in time. But it's I do, honestly. What I try to do is I try to spread the wealth, and I really do, between all of our friend auction houses. And I kind of go in rotation. But anyways, it was...
Well, we're going to have to get you to spread the wealth only to one place.
that technically wouldn't be spreading.
Here's something else that's coming up in a future auction.
That's unbelievable. Well, that's the M116.
Yeah, it's blue. It's a 5.5.
Wow.
Oh my God!
That'll come up in a future
Are
auction.
you serious?
Oh, absolutely. So that one's going to blow it away.
Think about what that's going to fetch.
Oh,
And let me tell you something.
Really good
And
ones.
I can tell you something right now. There are 3 private collectors that I know that, and I'm not one of them, that are on the hunt for a high grade M116. 3.
It's a beautiful looking card.
It's a great
too.
card. Great card. Anyway,
Yep.
all right. So Wagner. We can talk about Wagner all day long. We've beat a dead horse with Wagner.
Yep.
So let me get your opinion. We can bring this up as we go on the show too. You guys have been doing the collecting and in the collecting business longer than I have, especially with vintage. Who's the Mount Rushmore of collectibles?
Wagner.
Wagner's on there. Ruth's on there. Who's
Wagner,
the
Ruth,
other
and
two?
Mantle.
And who's the fourth? Garrick?
That's a good question.
Mathewson?
That's a good question.
Who's the
Who
fourth?
is the fourth? That's a very good question.
I think that Mount Rushmore could be interchangeable on any given day by anybody that's talking right now.
But I think Ruth and
you-
Wagner are like etched in stone, though, aren't they? I mean, Ruth and Wagner.
I think Ruth is for sure. Obviously, I mean, I don't know how you leave Gehrig off. I think he meant a lot to the sport, obviously, and I think Mickey Mantle are the 3 for sure. The fourth one is really tough. I mean, I think Wagner is up there, but I'll tell you what, we're gonna later in the segment here. I'm gonna share some stats with you about Christy Mathewson that will blow you.
You know
away,
something?
so.
He's on my list, and because you've got a 1910 E93 Christy Mathewson, could Christy Mathewson pitch today?
Yeah. Why not?
I'm asking the
Good
question.
pitchers can pitch.
I think all these guys can pitch
I
today
think
simply
pitchers
because
can pitch
they
in
were
any
workhorses.
generation. Yeah.
Oh, and plus the mound is higher
Are
today.
you kidding me?
What is-
Imagine telling Christy Mathewson you only have to go 4 or 5. Are you kidding me? Right?
No way.
That's a quality start.
And
now.
plus the mounds are higher
Imagine
today.
telling Nolan Ryan, you don't have to throw 150 pitches tonight. You got to throw 74. I mean, really?
That's a good
Give me a
point.
break.
He's like, I'll throw 74 in the first.
This
3
is like
innings.
the argument about the Larry Bird today. Larry Bird would score 40 points a game today. He wouldn't even have to run, rebound, or jump. He'd hang out at the 3-point line, get the ball, and shoot it. I mean, it's a different. Those guys can play. I think pitchers can pitch in any generation, Calvin.
I agree.
pitchers.
I think
Yeah.
hitters can hit in any generation. I mean, it's tough to compare like teens and 20s to present day baseball, but I mean, if you look at like what they had to go through, they were not comforted and pampered like today's players. I mean, they were real men. They were real players, and those players could play today.
These dudes
I mean,
they were pouring concrete
They
in
were.
the offseason
I
or something.
agree.
Like, you know what I mean? They had jobs, right?
How about the situation where Ruth hits a home run and it curves around the foul pole, foul, but it's over the fence and it's considered a foul ball? That was only changed up until
That's a very
I think
good point.
1930 or 1931 or whatever.
Great
so,
point.
I mean, how many more home runs would he have had? 60, 70, 80? Who knows?
What's the grade on that Mathewson card? Do you know?
It's I believe it's a 1 if I'm not mistaken.
That's a great card.
It has some slight paper loss at the lower front portion of the card. It's beautiful, well centered. But it does have a little bit of slight paper loss. So
Got about a minute
Staying
left.
on the then and now thing, I make the argument more that I'm not sure today's players could play back then. Because
Correct.
they're so pampered today.
Yeah.
Everything is presented to them, the best equipment, the best everything.
That's a good point.
I'm not sure they could play back then and do what those
I mean,
guys
pitcher,
did.
who's the best shortstop in baseball today, defensively? Pick somebody. Anyway.
It's not Bogarts, but let me just say Bogarts.
Okay,
Yeah.
could Xander Bogaerts feel like he feels today using a glove from 1920?
Hey, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Couldn't
and,
do it.
and riding on a train or whatever, not a private jet. You know what I mean? I get it. It's.
You know what's amazing is you look at all the advances in medicine and technology and training and levels of comfort in today's player, and they play less.
Exactly.
They play less.
In the teens
And they get hurt more.
play less.
And they get
They
hurt
played
more.
Yeah.
and they
Right?
had less resources.
Yeah.
It's
I agree.
unbelievable. Before we get off this topic, I wanted to kind of share these stats about Mathewson because we were kind of talking about Mathewson. Can these players and played in today's game? Mathewson played 17 years, right? Do you know how many 20-win seasons he had?
13?
He did. And 12 of them were consecutive. He had 13 out of 14 seasons. He had 20 or more wins.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Crazy
In
numbers.
fact, he had an ERA below 2, 5 years.
Right. And how many
And
innings did he pitch a
4
year?
years in a row.
How many innings did he pitch a year, roughly? About 300-400 innings?
No, probably
He
300.
pitched a lot, but
Documented? Not even documented, right? I mean,
All right, listen, we're going to take a quick break. Calvin Arnold from REA is in the house. When we come back, we got some other great items we're going to talk about. And then I want to throw some stuff out to you guys about fakes, scams, a little of everything. Hang in there, and we're going to come back with another Gax moment.
Since 1996, Brian Drent and the staff at Denver's Mile High Card Company have led the charge in the collectibles hobby. Mile High is a full-service dealer specializing in buying and selling cards and offers a competitive consignment program for all collectors. Whether it be their computerized want list service, appraisals, or auction services, Mile High has it all. If you've been searching for a company with a selection of high-grade vintage 1888 to 1970 baseball cards and memorabilia that shares your passion, aim high, Mile High. Go to milehighcardco.com or call 303-840-2784 for more information.
Hi, everyone. This is Rico Petrocelli. JustCollect.com, a leader in the vintage sports card industry, is giving free appraisals on your vintage cards. They'll evaluate your collection for free and let you know the value of it at no cost and no obligation. If you're ready to sell, JustCollect.com will offer you industry-leading prices to buy your card collection. To begin your free baseball card appraisal, visit JustCollect.com or call them at 732-828-2261. That's JustCollect.com for your free vintage card appraisals and top buy prices for your cards. Check out JustCollect.com today.
This is Brian Drent, president of Mile High Card Company. Is your sports card and memorabilia collection properly insured? For easily replaced personal property, homeowners insurance is all most people need. But for prized possessions that you may have spent a lifetime collecting, it doesn't go nearly far enough. Collectables Insurance Services has been insuring for over 50 years. They offer a full range of protection and a $0 deductible at an affordable rate with no appraisals required. I know because they insure my collection. If you have a minute, go to collectinsure.com and learn more about insuring your personal card or memorabilia collection.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
How would you like to own the bat that was used by your favorite player when he hit that towering home run or game-winning base hit? Now look no further than JT Sports, specializing in the sale and authentication of professional game-used bats. As the official authenticators of professional model game-used bats for PSA DNA, JT Sports will guarantee the authenticity of any bat purchased from them. JT Sports also buys and sells game-worn uniforms, gloves, and baseball equipment. The unique quality of the collectible is what JT Sports is all about. Give them a call at 609-487-8003 or check them out at GameUseBats.com.
Welcome to another Gax Moment, brought to us each week by our good friend Paul Borges and PB Collectables, your neighborhood card store. Go to pbcollectables.com to find that special card or piece of memorabilia. As we all know, the 1914 and 1915 Cracker Jack collection is one of the most iconic sets in the hobby. Some of the great Hall of Famers of the pre-war era, as well as other notable players, and yes, some commons, make up this great set. We're not certain why some players were chosen and some left off the issue. Babe Ruth, for instance, could have been included in the 1915 issue, but wasn't. It's interesting that one player is included in the Cracker Jack collection, and no one seems to know why. Ira Thomas was a decent catcher for the Philadelphia A's during the early years of the 20th century. However, over that 2-year period of 1914 and 1915, and that was the years that the CJ set was issued, Thomas had exactly 3 at-bats and batted .000 over that 2-year period. Thomas was a very good defensive catcher and a mediocre hitter. I think he hit about .250 over his career. And he also showed great leadership skills with Connie Mack's World Series Philadelphia A's in 1910 and 1911. But as the seasons went on, Thomas's career began to spiral. Like Mack, Ira Thomas did not believe in drinking, smoking, or nightlife. This became a problem with his teammates because ball players being ball players, they enjoyed all of those things. As Thomas's career waned, Mack decided to make him a player coach and named him captain of the A's in 1914. Mack's decision led to some dissension on the team, and although they again got to the World Series, they were swept. The following season, Connie Mack dismantled the team, but kept Thomas on as a coach. Why is Ira Thomas in the Cracker Jack collection while other notable players are not? I suspect that Connie Mack may have been behind the scenes in the decision to add Thomas to the set. In any event, Ira Thomas, who batted .000 during the 1914 and 1915 seasons, has a prominent place in Cracker Jack card history, while some of the other key players, like Eddie Rausch, Hal Chase, and Clark Griffith, did not make the cut. Go figure. And that's another Gax moment. Okay, let's get back to our good friend, Calvin from REA Auctions. Calvin, you got a DiMaggio play ball, 1939. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the DiMaggio play ball is a 4. You know, I know that DiMaggio and Williams are both in that set, and I think one of the things that most people look at is Williams or DiMaggio, which one? You know, and I think Williams is probably the better choice in that. DiMaggio has a 36 worldwide gum card. And I think the Williams card, they both have a similar pop, but I think Williams is the better card in that set. Although DiMaggio has a huge collecting base, you know, obviously because he's a Yankee, and I think another great pickup.
You know, again, you guys may disagree with me. I don't think there's any comparison between the two players as ball players. You think Williams is better? I think Williams is much better.
I disagree. I think Williams is a better hitter, but I don't think he was that much a better hitter. I think DiMaggio was a much better outfielder than Ted Williams. And I think over as a player, and I think the New York thing and the championship thing has a lot to do with it. You know, Joe DiMaggio won championships. Ted Williams won none.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame
Ted Williams won none.
But you can't blame him
Ted Williams, let me say it again. Ted Williams won. And my favorite player of all time, Carl Yastrzemski, won none.
But who did they have surrounding them?
None. They won none.
Calvin, help me here. Will you help me here?
Look, I can turn it around and say how many would the Yankees won without DiMaggio?
I think John has a point.
I take Joe DiMaggio over Ted Williams if I'm picking a player.
Really?
That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think guys are picking Williams over DiMaggio if they're looking for value.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, look, Williams you can make an argument for either player. Williams was a great hitter. DiMaggio was, you know, a good hitter and a great outfielder as well. He played for the New York Yankees. So, you know, I think it's an argument based on preference.
Yeah.
All right, so what else? Nick, you know, tell us about some of the
before
other...
we move on, if you flip-flop the two, like you talked about earlier, you put Williams in New York, DiMaggio in Boston.
They're both big markets.
If you put Williams in New York and he wins all those championships, he's the greatest player who ever lived.
He's the greatest player of all time. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting argument, although you just said he was only a good hitter, John.
No, Williams was a great hitter. No, I said Williams was a great hitter. I said DiMaggio wasn't that far behind him.
No, but he's
Williams
saying,
is the best hitter who ever lived.
No, but you just said.
But if he played in New York and won all those titles, he'd be the greatest player of all time.
But he's still
period.
He's defensively, he wasn't that good. You said
Doesn't matter because he'd have the rings, baby.
Oh, jeez.
So it's all about the rings.
It's all about the rings.
It's partly about the rings.
What else do we have, Calvin?
We have some really good items. We have 52 Mantle, SGC 2.5, another iconic card, just like a Wagner. One of the things that we have in this upcoming auction that we have quite a few of is signed cards. Signed cards is another area where, like tickets, it's really gained in value. I mean, many decades ago, people felt that it was sacrilegious to get their cards signed,
Right.
and therefore what we have today is a rarity in terms of the amount of signed cards that are available and in combination with the high-grade cards. One of them being a 58 Aaron and Mantle signed card. We have a 58 Aaron signed card. We have a very cool 54 Bowman Williams signed card. That's a PSA 4 with an 8 signature, and we have several 33 Gaudy signed.
Got a quick question about those signed cards, Calvin. I don't know if it adds or detracts from value. If a card, say you have a 58 or a 59 or a 60 Hank Aaron signed by Hank Aaron in 1960 versus that same card signed by Hank Aaron in 1971. Is there a difference in the value? One card's in pen, one card's in Sharpie.
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, I think playing days or vintage signatures add value to the card. If you take a look at Mantle signed a tremendous amount in the 80s, right? I mean, did tons of shows. You could find signed items for hundreds of dollars, but you take a ball that's signed by him in the 50s, and it's could be tens of thousands of dollars. So yes, I do think it adds a tremendous amount of value.
That's a very interesting point. I mean, that's something you and I have not talked about, is when it's signed.
Yeah.
Not just the fact that it is signed, but when it's signed.
Absolutely.
That's a great point on your part. I'm going to mark that down as one.
We are chatting with Calvin Arnold from REA Auctions. Hey, why don't you tell our viewers and listeners and people listening to us, by the way, on their favorite podcast, in their car, on their toilet seat, wherever. Why don't you tell us about
we're big in the bathroom. We really
tell
are.
us about the Philly Show.
I will. East Coast Sports Marketing and Hunt Auctions are pleased to present the Philadelphia Sports Collectors Show, the Philly Show, from Friday, September 22nd, my birthday, to Sunday, September 24th, held at the Greater Philadelphia Expo Center, Hall B, 100 Station Ave, Oaks, PA. Shop over 300 of your favorite hobby dealer booths on over 100,000 square feet of sports collectibles heaven from the 1800s to present day. Major sports auction houses and third-party grading and authentication companies are on hand to assist your collecting needs. The Philly Show is family-friendly, and all kids 12 and under get in free. Autographed guests to include Pete Rose, the hit king, Baseball Hall of Famers Jim Thome and Pedro Martinez, and 2023 inductee Scott Rowland. Basketball legends, I agree.
Excuse me.
I agree.
Sorry.
Basketball legends Julius, Dr. J. Irving, and Allen Iverson, and many more. For more information, go to phillyshow.com. Remember, since 1975, the Philly Show is where it all started.
It's beginning to be known as the Hall of Average.
Yeah, the Hall of Good.
The Hall of Average, or the Hall of Good. I mean, listen, Scott Rowland was a good player. He's got no damn business.
I wouldn't even have remotely had the words Scott Rowland and Hall of Famer roll out of my mouth.
Right.
Until I saw that he was actually Hall of Fame timber.
I totally agree.
Again, when we say these things, Calvin, we sound like we're trashing the player. Great
No,
player.
he was a good player.
Really great player.
He was a good player.
Excellent player. Not a Hall of Famer.
I think there's a lot of great players in baseball, but I don't think there's a lot of great Hall of Famers.
I totally agree with you.
You're right.
You could.
I mean, so it's not about trashing the player.
You're
the
right.
player can have a great career and be incredibly valuable in baseball and to their team, but they're just not Hall of Fame worthy.
Totally agree with you. Listen, compare Ted Lyons with Louis Tiant. Compare their numbers.
No, yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's like ridiculous.
Yes, I agree.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, to me, with the Harold Baines thing was another one. A lot of people, Again, solid hitter, professional
Great
hitter.
player.
Right? When I think of Harold Baines, I think of, like Al Oliver. Good hitters, solid, professional hitters.
Totally agree.
Not Hall of Famers.
Calvin, Ohtani. Are Ohtani cards, now that he's injured, the value heading south?
I think you're going to see a little bit of softness in those cards, but Ohtani's a generational player. So I think that long term his cards will do just fine. I mean, I think that he's going to continue to hit. He's not going to pitch. He's going to be out 6 months or something of that nature. But from a standpoint of how great he is as a player, I just don't see his cards suffering long term if he continues on the same trajectory.
So what happens if he has his surgery, comes back, and becomes either a mediocre pitcher or doesn't pitch, and he's getting paid huge money to be a DH?
Yeah, I mean, to me, if he doesn't come back, if he doesn't pitch and hit for a long time coming now, then I think that changes it. Now, he may hit and end up having tremendous stats and still have tremendously valuable memorabilia, but it's the hitting and pitching thing, Calvin, right, that makes this guy so unique right now.
It's definitely that combination. Yeah. I mean, because the comparison at this point is to Ruth, right?
Yeah, that's it, right.
That's the whole buzz about Ohtani. Obviously, he puts up the stats, but the buzz is he's compared to Ruth all the time. Although I will tell you, John, I do think that he will have value and longevity if he doesn't pitch, because that's just one aspect of it.
Yes.
I think, again, he's not long for the Angels. He's going to go to a team that probably isn't a huge market,
right,
going to win a championship or two, and that's going to really elevate his status.
I agree. If he doesn't pitch another inning, he's still going to have a tremendous career hitting-wise, and he'll still be one of the great names in the hobby. So we talked a little about this in the first. I want to get both your opinions on it, because we talk about this a lot when doing other radio shows, just talking sports and not necessarily collectibles. Is it the rings or is it the stats? Okay? Because you look at guys like, Dan Marino, to me, arguably, maybe the best quarterback in terms of playing the position in the history of the game. I'd put him up against anyone. Brady, Manning, 0 rings. Okay, and it's always that footnote. Never won the Super Bowl, never won the Super Bowl. I look at Joe Montana, great quarterback, don't get me wrong, in a great spot, great players all around him, Jerry Rice, everyone, 4 Super Bowls. In terms of the collectibles, in terms of the hobby, both you guys, when players are being valued, whether it's by people buying them, selling them, or people in the business, is it rings or stats?
Personally, I don't think rings have anything to do with it.
Okay.
And I'll give you, for instance, how many rings did Bobby Richardson have? Use him as an example.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Bobby Richardson is a good player. No one ever talks about that. He was on, I don't know how many world championship teams.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think these stats are much more important. What do you think, Calvin?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a double-edged sword in that question, because you use Bobby Richardson as an example. He's not Mantle or Maris. So at the end of the day, you take a player, I think it's a combination of stats and championship rings, but I think if you have stats and no championship rings, I think you're less viewed. Dan Marino was a great example. That's the example I was going to use. His cards, they're popular. They have some value, but they don't have the value of Joe Montana, Joe Namath, guys like that. Right. So I would lean more towards its championships,
really,
with an emphasis on stats, because obviously you have to have the stats. You can't go through. You can't be Trent Dilfer and win a Super Bowl and then he's all of a sudden some great quarterback or whatever. So I think that there's something to be said about both. But I'll lean towards championships.
Yeah, and I think it's a combo. When I look at Brady had to win 5 Super Bowls before people started talking about him with Joe Montana.
Yeah.
And the flip side of that is you get a guy named Terry Bradshaw who has won 4 in 6 years, by the way, which neither one of those guys did. And he's never talked about as one of the great quarterbacks of all time.
What about, what's his name?
Go ahead, Calvin.
I'm sorry. I think it's the marketing of the league.
Yep.
I mean, I think Bradshaw, I mean, football was an afterthought a little bit in terms of 60s and 70s. It wasn't commercialized. There weren't endorsements. There weren't a lot of these things that take place now. So I think the players today in this generation and the last couple of decades have had that. They've had exposure.
No doubt.
If there was social media during Bradshaw or 70s players, oh my gosh, these players would be larger than life.
Same can be said for basketball, I think. And Michael Jordan, who's the 100%. Pinnacle of that, Michael Jordan benefited greatly from Bird and Magic and what they did a few years before he got in the league.
What about quarterback for Buffalo, Kelly?
Jim Kelly.
If Jim Kelly, he was in 5 Super Bowls, 6 Super Bowls, whatever.
4 Super Bowls in a row.
If he wins all 4.
If he wins 2.
Right?
If he wins 1 or 2, the whole complexion of his career changes, right Calvin?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, people love to associate with winners, right? I mean, they love the fact he's now remembered, unfortunately, for losing 4 Super Bowls, right? And that's just not something you want to be remembered for. But if he won those or won 2 of them, like John said, I think he's one of the greatest that played the game.
What else do we have?
I don't know. You were talking about, you wanted to bring up something about fakes or that.
Yeah, that's good. I do want to talk about that. Again, we did another Gax moment probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. I had read a really interesting article. It was a great article for collectors.
Yeah.
And not novice collectors, but intermediate collectors, about the fakes that are out there, scams, the shysters that are out there. And the one thing that really stuck out, I want to get your opinion on this. The article said, do not trust any autograph. Don't trust any autograph unless it's authenticated. Do you agree with that, Calvin?
Listen, I believe in authentication. I think authentication has provided a level of comfort to a lot of collectors, especially collectors brand new coming into the space. You need to have some kind of authentication that you can stand behind and trust. But I think there's tons of people out there that know autographs very well and can buy autographs unauthenticated. But, it is a tricky business. Listen, at the end of the day, what do they say, right? The only autograph that's real is the one that you got in person and it's videotaped. So,
right. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like there's quite a few people in this industry that can look at an autograph and say, absolutely 100% legitimate. So
have you guys noticed an uptick in trimmed cards, for instance, or doctored cards over the last couple of years?
I mean, it exists. We haven't really noticed that. We're very good at fleshing those out and making sure that, our auctions are, very clean. But I mean, look, you're asking an authentication company to be absolutely perfect. Name somebody in this industry that's perfect, right? It's just not going to happen. So I think they do a great job identifying those things that are, not legitimate or have been, worked with. But at the end of the day, I think that there's in any industry, I mean, wherever there's money, there's always people trying to take advantage.
Things are better now, though, than they were.
Well, possibly because they're being policed better. Yeah, they are being policed better.
Right.
All right, we have about a minute left. One last question to both of you, real quickly. Does Juan DeFranco come back, or does he go into the junk pile? What do you think, Calvin?
This is the perils of modern collecting, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you have Mantle who can't do anything to hurt his career, and then you have guys that maybe don't have a good moral judgment or moral character, and they wreck their entire career.
I mean, I think it's going to depend on the legalities of everything, right? I mean, this is a very serious offense.
Yeah.
This is a young person we're involved. Okay, so if he's cleared, then I think eventually he comes back, and if he obviously plays well, then he rejuvenates himself. If not, then he's done.
He's done.
Yeah.
Your website address is?
RobertEdwardAuctions.com. Auction opens up September 14th, runs through the 24th. Visit. Lots of great items in the auction.
I'm eyeing a couple myself. Calvin, we got to have you back. You get it. You understand what we're all about. We had a blast with you.
Great job, man.
Yeah, this was wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Tell Dwyer he's out. Tell Dwyer he's out.
He's out.
He's out.
I think you'll be happy with that.
All right, take care. We'll see you.
Care.
Calvin Arnold from REA Auctions.
Awesome.
Robert Edward Auctions. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. Rockurst, Jeff Marran is going to be in the house. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Pristine Auction is a family-owned and operated online auction specializing in autographed memorabilia, sports cards, coins, art, and collectibles. Since their founding in 2010, they've grown to 2 facilities in Phoenix, Arizona, totaling over 60,000 square feet. Jared Cavalier and an incredible staff of over 150 team members serve a very large customer base and enjoy every minute of it. By working with leading authentication companies, Pristine ensures all items are 100% authentic. In addition, third-party authenticators regularly travel to Pristine Auction to provide authentication services on site. Pristine Auction strives to operate its business in a way that's honoring to God, their families, and their customers. With a strong focus on speed, quality, and premier customer service, their mission is to be the leading online auction for every level of collector and fan. Pristine also works for Hope Sports and Identity Hoops International, traveling to Mexico to build houses for the less fortunate. Pristine Auction offers several online auction formats with thousands of auctions ending each day. For more information, go to pristineauction.com. That's Pristine Auction, the best in the business.
If you're a discerning collector interested in owning the most important pieces in the hobby, look no further than Leland's Auctions. The original sports auction and appraisal house, Leland's was established in 1985 by legendary Pioneer founder Joshua Leland Evans. And today, President Mike Hefner carries on their tradition. From the Tom Brady card and memorabilia collection, to the famed Boston Garden Auction, to high-end card auctions from every major sport, Leland's has always maintained the highest standards. Go to Lelands.com and get your bid in. That's Leland's, the hobby's leading sports auction house for 4 decades.
With record-breaking sales from everything from the white border T206 Honus Wagner for $3.12 million to some great items that support the Jackie Robinson Foundation, Golden Auctions has set the highest standards for the finest in sports cards, autographs, and game-used memorabilia. We're always accepting consignments of high-end premium sports treasures or entire collections. Please register for our next auction and bid now at goldenauctions.com. That's golden with an I. We at Golden Auctions are committed to providing unsurpassed customer service for the discriminating collector. That's exactly why we're the leader in the industry. Visit goldenauctions.com or call 856-767-8550. Remember, Golden Auctions. We don't just break records, we shatter them.
It's often been said that championships are won on the practice field, and world records come only to those willing to work harder than everybody else. Heritage Auctions is the world's largest collectibles auctioneer because we believe that becoming the best is only an invitation to the challenge of remaining the best. This requires the skills of the hobby's top experts, capable of identifying and maximizing value for our consigners. It requires the most visited website in the industry, courting a global audience of collectors over 1.5 million strong. It requires a dedicated press department that expands our global reach far beyond the entrenched hobby marketplace. It's hard work, but a simple premise. Present the finest collectibles to the largest population of potential buyers, and world records will come. We invite all listeners to put the unmatched power of Heritage Auctions to work for you. Auction evaluations are always free, and our commission-based fee structure ensures that our interests are always aligned. Highest possible price for your collectibles. There will always be new world records to chase, so let's chase them together. Visit our website at ha.com and request your no-obligation review today.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
Hey, I'm Mike Petroselli. If your company is looking for the best in marketing and promotional items, you'll hit a home run with Petroselli Marketing. With over 8,000 suppliers and 650,000 imprint-ready items, we can get your company the visibility it needs to get your maximum exposure. Whether it be office promotions, wearables, automotive, sports items, and everything in between, Petroselli Marketing can do it all. Our design staff will even work with you from concept to delivery and customize your products. At Petroselli Marketing Group, we will get your brand in front of your audience. Contact us at info@petrocellimkt.com or call us at 603-880-3202. That's Petrocelli Marketing, where no dream is impossible.
So how does your company or organization do promotions? Zap, imprinted products keeps your brand in front of your customers more than any other form of advertising. It was rhetorical. Don't answer.
We don't get stuff for nothing from Petrocelli.
For the best on-time service and new ideas for your next project, give Petrocelli Marketing Group a call at 800-264-4294 or email them at mp@petrocellimkt.com.
He won't even give us a goddamn pen. It's ridiculous. He's so cheap. He is amazingly cheap. Deep pockets, Petrocelli. That's his nickname. All right, let's talk to our good buddy Jeff Marran from Rockurst Auctions. Mr. Marran, how are you? What are all those hockey sticks behind you? The hell are those?
We got a couple of big collections of hockey sticks in this time.
Oh, my God.
Nice. Yeah, that's just part of it. It ebbs and flows in this business, so you never know what's going to come next. And it was funny. It actually happened on back-to-back days. Two separate phone calls, two separate hockey stick collections.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, there's probably 100+ sticks in the auction.
Did you play hockey?
No. Street hockey.
I played NHL, National Hall.
I'm not good with things on water, frozen or otherwise. So
I couldn't skate backwards myself. But
a lot of street hockey, though.
Jeff, what are some of the highlights in the auction?
We've actually got one of Jordan's game used shoes. A local girl here won it in a 1988 basketball camp with him. There's a great video of her hitting a free throw at about 10 years old, and she got to pick out one of the game-used shoes he brought in for the girls to the camp.
Nice.
The interesting thing is it's one of the few non-Jordan gamers that he wore during his career. There was a little blip in '88 where he was, the rumor has it he was pissed off at the design team at Nike, so he wore these non-Jordan shoes 3 or 4 games.
What make are they? Do you know?
They're actually a Nike Air Alpha Force.
Nice.
He wore them for about 3-4 games in January, February of 1988. Good photos of them. It's a pretty cool story.
Not as good as my high-top Chuck Taylors at Austin Prep my senior year.
Right, were they green?
No, they were white. But
right.
Can you imagine? Think about this. Playing basketball. We played varsity basketball.
Yeah.
The entire team, high-top Chuck Taylors. That you're better off playing in sand.
Absolutely no. That's what we wore when I was playing grammar school basketball in the 70s.
Right?
We wore. There was no cushion at all in those things.
Even in the 80s, I used to pick them up because before they got fashionable again, I could buy them for $10.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So if I was on my way home from work in the 80s, I would stop and grab a pair and just play, and then my wife was throwing away about a dozen pairs.
What else do you have? What are some of the other highlights, Jeff?
We've got a lot of nice cards. It's a really nice card auction. A lot of single graded cards. Sets, partial sets. That's 50s, 60s, 70s tops. The usual suspects. We got a 51 Bowman Mantle rookie. Some other nice singles. We've got a lot of autographs in the auction. It's a really big autograph auction. It just sort of kind of ballooned up that way. There's a massive Ruth signed photo over my shoulder here. That's kind of great. It's from '48. He signed it to a Catholic boys organization in Boston. There's another Ruth photo in the auction. There's some nice game used stuff. There's like I said, the hockey collection's pretty great. One of them came from what's called the net setter for the Blackhawks. He was actually a fan that sat right on the ice. And in the mid '60s, they asked him before a game, "Hey, can you put the net on, to this goal right in front of you?" So he did, and he became friendly with the crew, and he ended up doing it for 50 years.
He put the net on the goal?
On the goal.
Yeah.
That seems like a hard job, actually.
So he started asking for sticks and autographs, and over the course of 50 years, he just passed away a couple of years ago. He assembled quite a collection of gamers from all these different Hawks. Plus, he was getting sticks from the opponents. So it's a great collection, and the sourcing is fantastic. And as we researched each stick, it was like everyone was like a check mark. Yep, gamer. So that's a really great collection.
I have to ask you. I have to ask you about one card, Jeff, because it's haunted me since I was a kid, and I ripped it apart. The Bird, Irving, and Magic.
You keep telling me. You've told me that story.
It's just haunted me forever.
What were you thinking?
Because I hated Julius Irving and Magic Johnson, and I didn't want them anywhere.
We not only have a good example in the auction of that card in a decent grade.
It's signed. It's signed, right, by all three.
I've got another copy that is signed by all three.
That's why I wanted to ask you, because I hadn't seen it signed by all three.
Oh my
That's
God, all
neat.
three signatures have been graded Gem Mint 10.
Wow. Oh my, that's a home run.
Are you kidding me?
That's a home run. And you know
they
something?
and they all signed so tidy on their own little section.
Right.
It's fantastic.
I didn't want those two guys anywhere near my guy.
You know something? Magic you're always tolerated, but I'll tell you what. Larry Bird and Julius Erving, when they played against each other, genuinely disliked each other.
They hated each other.
Remember the
organizations?
Remember that, Jeff? Remember that famous choke picture?
The choke thing, yeah.
That's a great.
And if I'm not mistaken,
I've shown my kid just glimpses of games from the 80s. He's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It looks like a street fight.
I think, by the way, I think that choke game.
Kurt Rambis.
There's two things about that choke game. One, I could be wrong. I think it was a preseason game.
It might have been.
And the second thing was Red Auerbach came down from the crowd and was ready to fight Billy Cunningham.
Oh God, that's something.
But that card signed, that's a winner.
Yeah,
man.
that's a great card.
Yeah. That card should be $6,000 to $10,000.
You know something, Jeff? Is it my imagination, or I mean, listen. Rockurst Auctions is famous for what you do. You do a lot of non-sport stuff, especially with the Elvis stuff, music. But you seem to have really, really delved into the sports memorabilia market in the last year or so. I know you've always done it, but I mean, you've got some amazing items. Are you spending more, putting more effort into that, or is it just happening?
No, we definitely made efforts over the last couple of years. You know, my experience goes back to the 90s with a couple of big auction houses. So, you know, my client base that's come with me all these 25 years, you know, I spent a lot of time doing that before I really started specializing in rock and roll for a few years. And then I kind of brought it all together here at Rockurst. But yeah, absolutely. That part of the business has grown for us every auction, so it's been pretty fun.
Good to know.
And we know about obviously the Elvis stuff is just unbelievable. But you have you have Beatles, the Stones, Hendrix, Bowie. You have a lot of great music items in this auction.
Yeah, it's a nice selection. We definitely always have some Elvis stuff. That never fails. In fact, they've got his the helmet that was made for him for Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah, very nice. The racing helmet. Yeah, right. I have that written down. I was going to ask him about that.
Do you have anything by the Chandels?
No, sorry, no Chandels.
Also, no any Herman's Hermits or anything.
Right.
Right.
Hey,
I occasionally see a Hermit. There's some John Love and Spoonful.
Hey,
record.
We only have a couple of minutes. Just seriously,
yeah.
Just quickly. In another, I think you know, I was a musician.
Yes.
And when I was a kid, I was 14 years old. We had a band, and actually we were pretty good. And we signed a contract for $200, four of us, $50 each, Friday night at Central Catholic. And we opened up for every week Peter and Gordon, the Lovin' Spoonful, the Barbarians, the Marquettes, and one or two other bands.
What was your band called?
The four of us.
The four of us.
And we gave that a lot of thought.
Oh, yeah. 14 years old, $50. And real quickly, we opened up for Peter and Gordon, and their backup band was a band called it was a blues band. I can't remember the name of the blues band. Young guys, 18, 19 years old. Our lead guitarist had a Fender Stratocaster, 14 years old. The lead guitarist and vocalist, something bees, the bumblebees or something. You may know this, Jeff. The lead guitarist and vocalist offered to buy his guitar.
Oh, yeah?
He said, no, I don't want to sell it. You know who that was?
Who?
David Bowie.
No way.
David Bowie. The King Bees. It was the King Bees was the name of the band.
Okay.
David Bowie was the lead singer. He must have been about 17 years old. Wanted to buy Tony Fiorino's. Tony says, no, not interested.
Wouldn't sell
We
it.
found out years later it was David Bowie.
Wow.
All right, your auction site address is?
Rockhurstauctions.com. Our auction closes this Thursday and Friday, the 14th and 15th.
All right, so you've got 2 days. Tonight's Wednesday.
Amazing stuff.
It does. It really is. You got some cool stuff, man.
Thanks, guys.
Closes tomorrow night and Friday night, because today's Wednesday, Jeff, because we pre-recorded. You know all that, right? And wish you the best. I'm sorry? What'd you say?
What day is it now?
That's right. We're confused. All right, Jeffrey, we love you, and good luck with the auction.
Good seeing you guys.
Stick with us till we say goodbye. Stay with us till we say goodbye. JM,
Absolutely.
good time this week.
Always, man. It was great.
Fun.
Great talk.
Don't
good
forget to wear your New
discussion.
Jersey.
Next time.
2 different colors.
I saw that.
Right. Chrissy,
Very
thank
excited.
you all, as usual. And to our viewers and listeners, we love you guys. Happy collecting.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.